Tonight, you're going to stand in front of your fridge for a few seconds longer than you need to. You're not hungry yet. You're just looking. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you're deciding what kind of person you want to be tonight. Pasta person? Salad person? Order-in person? It feels like a small, modern decision. But the real answer to what you're built to eat is far stranger than anything on that shelf. You've probably heard the story already. Ancient humans hunted woolly mammoths. They tore into raw meat around a fire, lived on steak and nothing else, and somehow that became the blueprint for an entire diet industry. Cavemen, the legend says, were apex predators, muscled and lean, living off pure protein. It's a clean story. It sells books. It is also almost completely wrong. Here's what actually happened. For more than 2 million years, your ancestors ate whatever they could find whenever they could find it. And that meant their diet looked nothing like a single food group. It looked like chaos. Beautiful, adaptive chaos. Start with the teeth. Teeth don't lie, because they fossilize, and they carry the evidence of every meal a person ever chewed. Anthropologist Amanda Henry studies exactly this. She examined the dental plaque of Neanderthals, ancient humans who lived alongside your own ancestors, and found something nobody expected. Trapped in that fossilized plaque were microscopic starch grains, cooked starch grains, from plants, from grains, from roots dug out of the ground and softened over fire. That single discovery cracked open the meat-only myth. Neanderthals, the supposed brutish carnivores of every cartoon and documentary, were eating dates, legumes, and grass seeds. They were boiling roots. They understood somehow which plants needed cooking to become digestible and which ones didn't. That's not brute survival. That's culinary knowledge passed down through generations. So if it wasn't just meat, what was it? The honest answer is, it depended entirely on where you happened to be born. A human living near a coastline in what's now South Africa around 160,000 years ago was eating shellfish, mussels pried off rocks at low tide, washed down with whatever tubers grew nearby. A human living on the grasslands of East Africa was eating something completely different. Tubers, termites, the occasional scavenged carcass, fruit when it was in season, and meat only when the hunt actually worked, which was rarer than you'd think. This is where Harvard biological anthropologist Richard Wrangham enters the story, and his idea changes everything about how you should picture your ancestors eating. Wrangham argues that the real turning point in human evolution wasn't meat at all. It was fire. Specifically, it was cooking. Cooked food is easier to digest. It releases more calories per bite than raw food does. And once your ancestors started cooking their food, something remarkable happened inside their bodies. Their guts could shrink, their jaws could shrink, and the energy that used to go toward digesting tough raw plants and meat got redirected somewhere else. Where did it go? Straight to the brain. Wrangham's cooking hypothesis suggests that the human brain, the same brain you're using right now to follow this sentence, only became possible once food became easier to process. You are, in a very real sense, a product of the campfire, not the spear, the fire. Pause on that for a second. Every time you've ever roasted a marshmallow, grilled a piece of chicken, or boiled a pot of rice, you've been repeating the single most important nutritional event in the history of your species. Cooking didn't just make food taste better, it rewired what a human being could become. But cooking alone doesn't explain the variety. For that, you need to look at what primatologist Catherine Milton discovered when she compared the diets of wild primates to early humans. Most primates, she found, specialize. They lean heavily on one or two food sources, leaves, specific fruits, and their bodies adapt narrowly around that. Humans did the opposite. Human ancestors became generalists, willing and able to eat almost anything their environment offered. Insects, fish eggs, bone marrow cracked open with rocks, wild honey stolen straight from the hive, stings and all. This flexibility wasn't a lucky accident. It was a survival strategy. A species that can eat 50 different things will always outlast a species that can only eat 5, especially when the climate keeps shifting beneath their feet. which it did, constantly, for millions of years. Ice ages came and went. Forests turned into grasslands and back again. The humans who survived weren't the strongest. They were the ones willing to eat the next thing in front of them, no matter how strange it looked. And some of it was strange. Really strange. Termite mounds were a delicacy in parts of ancient Africa, not a desperate last resort. They're packed with fat and protein, and some researchers believe early hominins used simple tools specifically to dig them out, long before anyone was sharpening a spear. Bone marrow, the soft fatty tissue inside animal bones, may have been even more valuable than the meat itself. Archaeologist Henry Bunn's analysis of butchery marks on ancient animal bones found at sites in East Africa suggests early humans were deliberately smashing bones open to reach the marrow inside, sometimes from animals they hadn't even hunted themselves, just scavenged from a lion's leftover kill. That's not the noble hunter of the textbook illustration. That's a scrappy, opportunistic survivor, taking whatever calories the world was willing to offer. Does that change how you picture them? Because here's the twist that almost nobody talks about. For the overwhelming majority of human history, gathering, not hunting, fed the group. Estimates from studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies, communities that still live close to this ancient pattern today, suggest that plant foods, roots, nuts, berries, tubers, often made up 60 to 80% of total calories. Meat was the unreliable bonus. Plants were the dependable backbone. The hunt got the glory. The gathering kept everyone alive. That detail alone should reshape the way you think about your own cravings. When you reach for something sweet, something fatty, something salty, you're not failing some ancient warrior diet. You're behaving exactly like your ancestors did, chasing the rarest, most calorie-dense things available. Because for nearly all of human history, those things were genuinely rare. A piece of ripe fruit wasn't a treat, it was a jackpot. Animal fat wasn't indulgence, it was the densest energy source a human body could find. Your brain still treats them that way, even now, even though your fridge is full of both, all the time, with zero effort required. That's the strange part nobody warns you about. Your body is still running ancient software in a completely modern environment. The craving systems that once helped a person survive a famine are the exact same systems lighting up when you stand in front of a vending machine. There was no malfunction. There was no design flaw. There was just an environment that changed far faster than evolution ever could. Think about how slowly this all happened. 2 million years of trial and error. 2 million years of testing which roots were poisonous and which were food, which insects were safe and which weren't, which animals were worth the risk of approaching and which weren't. Compare that to the last 10,000 years when farming appeared and food for the first time became something humans grew on purpose instead of searched for. 10,000 years sounds long until you put it next to 2 million. It's a rounding error. Your body had almost no time at all to adjust to the shift from foraging to farming, and even less time to adjust to the shift from farming to fast food. So when you stood in front of that fridge tonight, deciding what to eat, you weren't really choosing between pasta and salad. You were running an ancient decision-making system that evolved to find calories wherever they hid, in roots, in marrow, in insects, in fruit, in whatever the land happened to offer that season. The only difference is that your land now offers everything, all at once, all the time, and the part of your brain built to crave rare things has never been told to stop. You don't eat like a caveman. No one ever did, not even cavemen, because there was no single way that ancient humans ate. There were 1,000 ways, shaped by coastline and desert and forest and ice, by what fire could soften and what teeth could crush, by whatever happened to be growing, crawling, or swimming nearby that week. So tonight, when you finally close the fridge door and decide, remember what you're actually looking at. Not a craving, not a habit. A 2-million-year-old survival strategy, still running quietly in the background, still searching for the next rare thing, in a world that finally, after all this time, has nothing left to hide.